Hello everyone, my name's Kara and welcome to the Tuxedo Park Library's Adult Summer Craft, where we will decoupage a wooden box. Some of the supplies in your box are optional. For example, the scrapbook paper, you don't have to use that. You can also use pages from a magazine, old pages from a book. You could use quotes from an old book that you really like, or print out your own images from your printer, whatever you want to do. Plus the sandpaper, you don't have to sand down your box, but it will make it smooth, make all the edges smoother, and make it a little easier for the paper and Mod Podge to stick. So I'm going to tell you some hints and tips for decoupage. A while back I made this mat for a picture frame, and when I move it you could see the shine. That's the Mod Podge on top of it. And here I did strips of scrapbook paper that I cut straight with a scissor. I also made one a while back where instead of cutting the paper I ripped it so the edges are all wavy. So really you could do it either way. If you want a more clean look, obviously use scissors, and if you want it to be a little more rustic, you could rip the paper. So of course the first thing you're going to do is to gather all of your supplies. I did do some sanding of my box, but I did it off camera since the sanding is a little loud and I didn't want to take up the time. Next we're going to cut our paper, whatever type of paper you're going to use, in varying sizes of strips. And I decided I'm going to cut mine with a scissor instead of ripping them. So I've cut some strips. The pink paper with writing and the blue paper with some leaves are going to be the main focus of my box, and then I'm going to have some other pieces of paper. This one has a little bit of metallic dots on it, are going to be my accents. So I kept them long because you could always make them shorter. You of course can't make them longer after you cut them. And I think I'm going to make a design on my box. So what I would suggest doing is placing out a design first before you even touch your Mod Podge, just to see how you want things to lay, because once you start using the Mod Podge, of course things are going to get wet and sticky. So I have a preliminary design of what I'd like to do. I kind of want to do a diagonal, maybe Art Deco kind of design, if that's the right name for it. Something to keep in mind is that you will most likely be layering your pieces of paper. So if you want them to be symmetrical, just make sure to, of course, layer from either the outside in, the inside out, or left to right, whatever you want to do. For example, I laid this on here, but I think I'm going to glue this piece underneath here first, and then lay everything on top of it, and so on. So I'm going to start to glue a bit. Okay, now how I like to do the actual gluing and decoupaging is I take a little bit of my Mod Podge, put it on the surface that I want to be gluing, of course. Put my paper on. And I always put glue on top of it. Now this will dry clear and it will be shiny, so there's no need to worry about covering anything fun up. Also, what I'm doing is hanging over my pieces of paper on the side of my box. And what I'm going to do later, once it's dry, is I'm going to either fold the sides down onto here or cut them off entirely. And always make sure to put something down underneath because I already got some Mod Podge on it. It can get very messy because Mod Podge is sticky. So when I do decoupage, I tend to use more Mod Podge than I really need to. It doesn't matter in the end looks wise, it'll all dry clear and the same. Oops, that one's a little short. So don't be afraid to use as much as you want. You do have a whole bottle, which should be plenty for our little boxes. And if you press the paper down, some Mod Podge will come squirting out, and you can just make it flat again if you like, because that little ridge will dry like that. Okay, I'm going to finish up the top of my box off camera, and then we'll move on to the sides. Okay, so here's the top of my box. I cut my paper while it's still wet, which you can do if you're careful, but you could also, of course, do it when it's dry. I didn't cut it off all the way yet. I just did it enough so that I can continue working on my box. So I'm gonna do the side next. Now, since this box opens, I would suggest doing the top and the bottom, the two pieces, separately, because say if you glue a piece of paper along the top, you won't be able to open it. So I'd open the box first so you don't accidentally glue it shut. And you're just gonna do the same process. Layer paper however you like, and glue it down with your Mod Podge. Okay, so be forewarned, it was actually really difficult to cut around the edge of the paper for the clasp. It didn't come out as well as I wanted it to, so I may go back and put really tiny pieces of paper in there, but right now I'm just gonna leave it until everything else dries, and I'll do that last. Okay guys, I let my decoupage box dry overnight. Mod Podge does dry fairly quickly, so you don't have to leave it for that long if you don't want to. Here's my box. I love how it came out. I made these vertical lines that open and shut on the top and the side to make it look like a sort of hope chest. A little vintage, I think. I put these flower cutouts and I put a word cutout on the front. I did not do the inside, and I did not do the back. My reason being is I'm going to paint the back and the inside black, and I did not do it for the video since we did not include it. That would be something that you could decide to do on your own to either paint or stain the box. You could do it before or after you decoupage it. It was difficult to cut the paper around the clasp, so I think I'm going to put paint there as well to cover up that wood. Might be a little difficult to see, but the way you use your brush strokes with your Mod Podge is the way that the brush strokes are going to dry on your box. So for instance, here, let's see, you can see it a little bit better this way. On my vertical stripes, I painted it up and down, and you could see the strokes go up and down. And on the side, you could see I did them horizontally. Now, if you don't like that, if you want them all to be uniform, just take one last layer of Mod Podge and brush it all in the same direction. But you will see ridges. No matter which direction you do, there will be some ridges from your paintbrush with the Mod Podge. Thank you for joining me for this decoupage wooden box craft. I had so much fun. I'm going to put it on my desk at work. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to call or email the library. And also don't forget to hand in your bingo board for raffle prizes by August 14th at 2 p.m. Thanks for joining me.